Continental drift. The world's landmasses are embraced by a single saline, oceanic body of water. The largest of these masses are called continents. Others are islands, and the smallest islets are uninhabited by humans. Clusters of islands are called archipelagos. Who is I is a personal odyssey. My voyaging in an ocean of experiences, navigating an untravelled, untamed seascape. I have had no known destination, no compass, and no conception of what I might stumble upon. My living researching has given rise to my discovery and emergence of both literal and metaphorical continents and islands. These both colonize and convey the physical and metaphysical dimensions of my unfolding existence. I share some of my island discoveries and creations in a series of archipelagos. Who am I? Who am I? I am a colonial child born of northern Rhodesia. I am a colonial child born of a colonial child born of India, my mother. I am a colonial child born of a child born of Scotland, my father. I am a colonial child of a colonial child born of a child born of England, my mother's mother. I am a colonial child of a colonial child born of a colonial child born of India, my mother's father. I am a colonial child of a child born of a colonial child born of India, my father's mother. I am a colonial child of a child born of a child born of Scotland, my father's father. I am a colonial child of a colonial child born of a child born of a child born of England, my mother's mother's father. I am a colonial child of a colonial child of a colonial child born of a child born of Scotland, my mother's father's father. I am a colonial child of a child born of a colonial child born of a child born of Ireland, my father's mother's father. I am a colonial child of a child born of a child born of a child born of Scotland, my father's father's father. Who am I? I am a colonial child of Celtic Catholic ancestors who fled persecution in the place they were born, who went in search of safer places to call home, who fought for an empire that was not theirs, who staked claims on lands they presumed to own, who repeated the harms that were done to them. Who am I? I am a colonial child born of a nation that fought to be free of British colonisation. I am a colonial child born of a nation that chose its name to seal its emancipation. I am a colonial child of one Zambia, one nation, both birthed and nurtured in humanist foundations. I am a colonial child shaped by this nation. I changed my name for my emancipation. I am a colonial child out as a lesbian, at risk to remain since constitutional erosion. I am a colonial child who chose her name to stake her claim on an identity freed of the colonial ties that bound the lies that maintained the lives of my familial generations. Who am I? I am a colonial child who cannot rid myself of the privilege of this skin I was born in. I am a colonial child who cannot deny the time and place I was birthed on this earth. I am a colonial child who cannot refute the right that is mine to choose which nation to live in. I'm a colonial child who cannot ignore the realities of appropriation and occupation. I am a colonial child who cannot escape the remnants of empire that colonized my family lines. I am a colonial child who lays down the share of the blame that was theirs, not mine. Who am I? I am a colonial child who was drawn back to the land of my father's ancestors. I am a colonial child who retraced and reclaimed my unbroken paternal roots. I am a colonial child who settled near a place my mother once called home. I am a colonial child whose mother's mother emigrated to yet another colonized nation. I am a colonial child whose maternal lines sustained a fourfold continental drift. I am a colonial girl who rescinds their stake in lands to which they laid claim. I am a colonial girl who cuts heritable chains that perpetuate colonial shame. Who am I? I am a colonial child who heeded the call of my Celtic origins. I am a colonial child, no longer a child, who moved ever north to the turf of my clans. I am a colonial child, no longer a child, without a child, my roots bedding deep in Edinburgh, Scotland. Who am I? I am daughter of a prodigal, returned from my birthland to his clansland, a nation restored in part to its people. Yet, do I remain occupied territory, colonized by the mother tongue pressed into my mouth and the accent sucked out? Can I be Zambian with the colour of my skin? Can I be Scots when I sound like this? Do I permit you to prescribe who I am? No, it is mine to say and to know from within. I am all this and more. I know who I am. Mother tongue. Oh, the complexities of understanding who we are. How do we make sense of all the ways in which we are unlike those we encounter in our daily lives? We might focus on our similarities as a way to simplistically align ourselves, trying to fit in so as to avoid finding ourselves standing alone. But at what cost do we deny the differences that make us uniquely ourselves? Fully admitting the nature and impact of my family's continental drift has been a long time coming. For so much of my life, I have experienced being other, despite the obvious, the colour of my skin, and the undeniable privilege that is associated with it in so many parts of the world. Yet, in transitioning between African and European nations, states and regions as a third culture kid, I was teased mercilessly because of a particular minority status, never having the accent that matched the place in which I lived. I changed how I spoke to fit in, and then moved. Despite the colour of my skin, it was in following this poetic thread that I came to recognise the extent to which, through this mother tongue and the way I speak it, I embody how colonisation of a nation insidiously seeps into its people. When I speak, I risk the projections you put on me.